Let me ask you something. In the last 2 years, American buyers purchased nearly 178,000 vehicles built in China. 178,000, and almost none of those buyers knew it. Not BYDs, not MGs, not any brand you'd recognize as Chinese. These were Buicks, Lincolns, Polestars, Volvos, all assembled in Chinese factories, loaded onto container ships, and sold to American consumers under Western badges. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The Chinese automotive invasion didn't get stopped by tariffs. It got disguised. And that's what this video is really about. Because while the political conversation in Washington has been focused on blocking Chinese brand names from American showrooms, China has been quietly winning the technology war, the battery war, the software war, the price war, in ways that are already reshaping every car you can buy today, regardless of what the badge says. Today on Car Sparks, we're going deep. The brands that are technically here, the brands that are coming, the technology you're already driving, whether you know it or not, and what this all means for American car buyers in 2026 and beyond. This is the story they're not telling you at the dealership. Let's start with the wall, because you need to understand what it actually does and what it doesn't. In 2024, the Biden administration raised the import tariff on Chinese-made electric vehicles to 100%, on top of an existing 25% base tariff. So you're looking at 102.5% total on a Chinese-built EV imported into the United States. Effectively, that doubles the price before it even hits a dealer lot. The intended effect: keep Chinese EV brands out of the American market. The actual effect, more complicated. Here's what the tariff wall did not stop. It did not stop Buick from importing tens of thousands of Envision SUVs built in Shanghai and selling them at American dealerships, because the Envision runs on a gasoline engine, not a plug-in drivetrain, and is therefore exempt from the EV tariff. It did not stop Ford from selling the Lincoln Nautilus, also built in China, also gasoline-powered, which moved over 30,000 units in both 2024 and 2025. These are not fringe products. The Nautilus was one of Ford's most important vehicles during this period. The tariff wall also did not stop BYD from building electric buses in Lancaster, California, where they've had a manufacturing presence for years. It did not stop Geely, the Chinese company that owns Volvo and Polestar, from selling cars through both of those brands at American dealerships right now. And it did not stop CATL, the largest EV battery manufacturer on the planet, a Chinese company, from supplying battery cells that end up in Ford Mustang Mach-E and Toyota BZ4X driven by American families. The wall stopped the badge. It did not stop the technology. So let's talk about the Chinese cars that are already in American driveways, hiding in plain sight. The Buick Envision, built in Yantai, China by SAIC-GM. The Envision holds a 5-star NHTSA overall safety rating. It has maintained high safety ratings across multiple model years. Consumer Reports found its quality control consistent and its active safety systems, automatic emergency braking, lane keep assist, performing on par with domestically produced GM vehicles. In the first half of 2024 alone, GM reported over 21,000 Envision sales in the US. Nobody called it a Chinese car. Nobody staged a protest. It just quietly became one of the most practical small SUVs in its class. The Lincoln Nautilus, built in Hangzhou, China, premium mid-size SUV. Ford sold well over 30,000 in both 2024 and 2025. One of the most dramatic cabins in Lincoln's modern lineup. Absolutely nobody in the conversation about Chinese cars mentioned it, because the badge says Lincoln, not SAIC. The Polestar 2. This one is fascinating. Polestar is owned by Geely, a Chinese company. The Polestar 2 was built in Luqiao, China. It was available in the US and moved close to 13,000 units in 2024. It is, by any definition, a Chinese car. It just has Swedish design language, a Scandinavian name, and a performance EV badge. The tariff pressure eventually forced Polestar to shift production. But for a significant window, American EV buyers were enthusiastically purchasing a Chinese-built product they thought of as a European alternative to Tesla, the Volvo EX30, designed in Sweden, built in Zhangjiakou, China, would have been one of the most compelling electric vehicles in the US market at around $35,000. Compact, premium, excellent range. The 100% EV tariff derailed its original US launch timeline and forced Volvo to shift production to Belgium for American market units. A genuinely excellent product, delayed and repriced because of where it was assembled. The pattern here is consistent. Chinese manufacturing quality has reached a level where American consumers, given no alternative information, simply can't tell the difference. That is a significant statement about where we are in 2026. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, the company that the tariff wall was most directly designed to keep out, BYD. In 2025, BYD sold 4.6 million new energy vehicles globally. Tesla sold approximately 1.8 million. BYD is the largest EV manufacturer on the planet, not a contender. The leader, and American buyers can't buy one. Think about what that actually means. The most advanced, highest volume, most cost-efficient EV company in the world, the one setting the global benchmark on battery technology, pricing, and production scale, is legally locked out of the world's largest automotive market. And that wall is holding for now. But the pressure is building from multiple directions. BYD is building a manufacturing plant in Mexico. Mexico has a free trade agreement with the United States through the USMCA. That creates a potential pathway where BYD-designed vehicles, assembled in Mexico, could enter the American market, if the regulatory and political landscape shifts. Washington is aware of this and is watching it closely. The conversation is happening now. What would a BYD actually mean for American buyers? In Europe, the BYD Atto 3 EV starts at equivalent pricing well below comparable American offerings. In Australia, BYD is outselling Tesla. In Mexico, the BYD Dolphin, a compact electric hatchback, sells for around $23,600. The BYD Seagull, their entry-level EV, sells for approximately $11,000 in China. $11,000 for an electric car. That price point doesn't exist in America, not even close. The tariff isn't protecting American consumers from bad products. It's protecting them from better-priced ones. That is a debate that will define the next 5 years of American automotive policy, and it directly affects your next car purchase. Here's the part of this story that almost never gets told, because it doesn't fit neatly into either political narrative. You might not be able to buy a BYD or an MG at an American dealership, but you are very likely already using Chinese battery technology in whatever EV or hybrid you drive. CATL, Contemporary Amperex Technology Company, Limited, is the largest EV battery manufacturer in the world, based in Ningde, China. CATL supplies battery cells to Ford, BMW, Volkswagen, Tesla, and Toyota, among others. The lithium iron phosphate battery chemistry, LFP, that is now standard in many base model EVs because of its durability, longevity, and lower fire risk. CATL pioneered the commercial deployment of that technology. It's in the Ford Mustang Mach-E. It's in some Tesla Model 3s. It is inside American cars sold at American dealerships right now. Beyond batteries, China controls over 80% of the world's graphite supply. Graphite is the anode material in virtually every lithium-ion battery on the market. The minerals, the refining, the manufacturing capacity. The supply chain for the electric vehicle future runs through China to a degree that tariffs on finished vehicles don't begin to address. This is not a political argument for or against any trade policy. It's simply the reality that any honest conversation about Chinese cars in America has to acknowledge. The separation between Chinese technology and American cars is already much thinner than the conversation in Washington suggests. So what does the next 3 to 5 years actually look like for American buyers who want access to this technology? A few scenarios worth watching closely. First, the Mexico route. BYD's plant in Mexico is real and advancing. Whether vehicles assembled there can enter the US under USMCA is a live political and regulatory question. The Trump administration has signaled it would close this pathway, but trade policy is negotiated, not fixed, and carve-outs are always possible. Watch this space. Second, the Geely brands. Geely, the Chinese owner of Volvo and Polestar, has been reportedly evaluating bringing its Zeekr and Lynk & Co brands to North America, potentially leveraging Volvo's existing manufacturing plant in South Carolina as a bridgehead. Zeekr makes genuinely impressive premium EVs that target the same buyers who currently consider a Model Y or a Polestar 2. This is not a rumor. Geely has publicly discussed it. The South Carolina plant is already there. The question is political will and regulatory approval. Third, technology licensing. Even if Chinese brand names stay out, Chinese technology, battery chemistry, software architecture, manufacturing processes will continue to migrate into vehicles assembled in America. Ford has an announced partnership with CATL for battery production. Tesla sources battery cells from both CATL and BYD's parent in different configurations. The technology transfer is already happening, just without the Chinese nameplate on the hood. Fourth, the Canada signal. Canada recently opened a quota system for Chinese EVs, up to 70,000 vehicles per year, growing over 5 years, with half required to be priced under the equivalent of $35,000. Canada is America's closest automotive neighbor and trading partner. If Chinese EVs establish a credible, visible quality track record in Canada, which is almost certain given how they've performed in Europe and Australia, the political argument for keeping them out of the US becomes harder to sustain long-term. Enough geopolitics. What does any of this mean if you're buying a car this year? 3 things worth knowing. 1. If you're shopping for an ICE SUV in the $35,000 to $55,000 range, you should know that the Buick Envision and Lincoln Nautilus are Chinese-made products that score well on independent reliability and safety metrics. If your concern is you don't want to buy a Chinese car, you may have already bought one. If your concern is you want the best product for the money, both are worth considering without any asterisk. They are well-made vehicles. 2. If you're in the EV market, the tariff wall is directly costing you money. The products you can't access, BYD, MG, the full Geely ecosystem, are priced 15 to 30% below comparable American and European EVs for equivalent or superior specs. That gap is the tariff. You are paying it as a higher price for the domestic alternative. That's not a conspiracy. That's basic trade economics. 3. Watch the next 18 months very closely. The Mexico question, the Geely brand question, the CATL partnership announcements, these are moving fast. The American market will not look the same in 2028 as it does today, and the buyers who understand this landscape now will make smarter decisions when the choices actually arrive. Here's where I land on all of this. The Chinese automotive industry has built better and cheaper cars than most Americans are aware of. The tariff wall has delayed the reckoning. It has not prevented it. The technology is already inside American cars. The manufacturing quality has already been demonstrated through Western-badged vehicles. The price pressure is already forcing domestic brands to compete harder than they otherwise would. Whether Chinese brand names appear in American showrooms in 2027, 2028, or 2030, that's a political question. But the impact of Chinese automotive innovation on American buyers is happening right now, whether you can see the badge or not. One question for the comments. If a BYD, an MG, or a Zeekr were available at an American dealership tomorrow, fully certified, fully warranted, would you test drive one? No wrong answer. I want to know where this audience actually stands. We are Car Sparks. If this changed how you think about what's in your driveway, share it, because this is a conversation that deserves to be louder than it is. See you in the next one.